The quiet hum of the airplane filled the first-class cabin as passengers settled into their seats. Among them sat Victor, a businessman whose tailored suit and expensive watch hinted at his success. He exuded confidence, the kind that came with wealth and power. Sitting across from him was a man dressed simply in jeans and a black t-shirt with a calm and unassuming demeanor. That man was Keanu Reeves, though most passengers hadn't recognized him yet. Victor, however, was in the mood for conversation, or rather a monologue about success. With an air of superiority, he leaned slightly toward Keanu and said, "You know, people like to talk about humility and simplicity, but in the real world, those things don't get you anywhere. If you don't show what you have, people ignore you. That's just how things work." His voice carried enough arrogance to make a few passengers glance in his direction. Some exchanged quiet whispers, while others simply observed, sensing that this conversation might become interesting. Keanu listened patiently, his expression unreadable. Then, in a calm voice, he responded, "I've noticed that sometimes the people who talk the most about what they have are the ones who feel the emptiest inside." His words hung in the air for a moment, resonating with those who heard them. Victor, caught off guard, hesitated before responding. He had expected admiration, or at least agreement, but instead, he found himself on the receiving end of a thought-provoking statement. He quickly recovered, though, and let out a chuckle. "Cheap philosophy," he scoffed. "It might sound nice, but the real world doesn't work that way." Keanu remained composed. "The real world is made by people, Victor," he said. "And in the end, how we treat others says more about who we are than anything else." A shift in the atmosphere was palpable. The other passengers, now fully engaged in the exchange, observed Victor closely. His confident posture began to falter slightly as he realized the attention was no longer in his favor. He crossed his arms, attempting to mask his discomfort, but his irritation was becoming apparent. Determined to regain control, he leaned forward. "Look, I don't need a lecture on life. I've worked hard for everything I have. Success isn't just handed to you." Keanu nodded, acknowledging his words. "I'm not saying you didn't work hard," he said. "But sometimes we get so caught up in showing off what we've achieved that we forget to look inward. Who are we without all of this?" He gestured subtly around them, as if to suggest that material possessions were not what defined a person. Victor laughed, though the sound was more defensive than amused. "Who are we? We're what we build. Without it, we're nothing." Keanu's gaze remained steady. "I disagree," he said. "I think we're defined by what we do for others, not by what we accumulate. In the end, the things we show the world matter less than what we carry inside." His words resonated throughout the cabin, and some passengers nodded in agreement. Victor's frustration grew. He felt as though Keanu was dismantling his entire worldview, piece by piece. "That's easy for you to say," he snapped, his voice rising slightly. "You don't know anything about me or what I've been through." Keanu's response was gentle but firm. "You're right, I don't know your story. But I don't think I need to see that sometimes, when someone feels the need to shout about what they've achieved, it's because they're trying to hide something. Fear, insecurity, loneliness." The words hit like a brick. Victor's face flushed with emotion, and for a moment he was silent. He clenched his fists, clearly struggling to contain his anger. Then, in a sudden outburst, he stood up, knocking his empty champagne glass to the floor. "You think you're better than me?" he shouted. "Sitting there with your clever little phrases, acting like you know everything about life. But you don't know a thing about the real world." The cabin fell into a stunned silence. The flight attendant quickly approached, trying to defuse the situation. But Keanu remained seated, completely composed. He waited for Victor to finish before responding. "I don't think I'm better than you," he said calmly. I just think that sometimes we need to stop and think about what really matters. And Victor, you don't have to prove anything to anyone." Victor's anger seemed to drain from him, replaced by something else: uncertainty. He sat down, avoiding eye contact with Keanu and the other passengers. The words echoed in his mind, stirring something he wasn't ready to face. A short while later, the flight attendant approached Keanu with a polite smile. "Mr. Reeves, the captain asked me to inform you that your connection in Tokyo is confirmed. He also sends his best regards." The name Reeves echoed through the cabin. Some passengers widened their eyes, while others exchanged shocked glances. And that's when Victor froze. The name Reeves echoed through the cabin. Some passengers widened their eyes, while others exchanged shocked glances. And that's when Victor froze. "Reeves," he murmured, barely audible. "Keanu Reeves." Keanu simply nodded, offering a polite thank you to the flight attendant. He turned back to Victor, who now looked as if he had just seen a ghost. "Is something wrong, Victor?" Keanu asked with a slight smile. Victor's mouth opened, but no words came out. He glanced around, noticing the shift in the passengers' expressions. Some were amused, others were looking at him with disapproval. He swallowed hard. I had no idea," he stammered. "I mean, you didn't say who you were." Keanu's tone remained even. "I didn't think it was necessary. I don't usually use my name as a calling card." Victor struggled to justify himself. "I didn't mean to offend you," he said weakly. "I just didn't know who I was talking to." Keanu sighed softly. "Victor, what you said doesn't change just because you now know my name. The truth doesn't depend on who you're speaking to. It depends on how you choose to treat people." Victor had no response. The weight of those words settled over him like a heavy blanket. He looked down at his hands, feeling the humiliation sink in. The arrogance he had carried at the start of the flight had vanished, replaced by something closer to shame. As the plane began its descent, Victor finally found the courage to speak. His voice was quieter now, more measured. "I need to apologize," he said, still avoiding Keanu's gaze. "Not because of who you are, but because I was arrogant. I acted like an idiot." Keanu nodded, his expression unchanged. "I appreciate the apology," he said. "But more than that, I hope you learn from this." Victor nodded slowly. He didn't argue this time. Instead, he reflected on the conversation, realizing that Keanu's words had shaken something deep inside him. After disembarking, Victor stood in the terminal and watched Keanu walk away. He saw fans approach him, asking for photos and autographs. Keanu greeted each person with patience and kindness, without any sense of superiority. It was clear that his humility wasn't an act. It was simply who he was. Victor sighed, looking down at his hands once more. He knew he needed to change. Keanu's words continued to echo in his mind, a reminder that a person's true worth isn't measured by their status, but by how they treat others. As Keanu disappeared into the airport crowd, Victor felt something new. Hope. Maybe that encounter hadn't been a coincidence. Maybe it was a chance to start over. In the end, we all carry choices that shape who we are. Are we living to impress others or to become better people? Keanu's words left a clear lesson. True success isn't about what we achieve or show off, but about the positive impact we leave on the world and the lives of those around us.